Testing the spirits. Right, so this is something that comes up repeatedly. I have done various videos on this topic, but I still get asked a lot about how do we test the spirits. And admittedly, in previous videos, I have just gone about saying, just ask them questions, do this, do that. But I was recently reading Tara Sanchez's book, The Temple of Hecate, and there's a step-by-step guide in there on how to test the spirits. So I thought I would take that and we have a look at each step individually. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Alright, so testing the spirits. Now, testing the spirits has to be done with all of the spirits. It doesn't matter if it's a god, a goddess, a demon, or an angel. It doesn't matter what it is, you have to test the spirits, because astral parasites can come along and they can pose as the spirits that we are wanting to talk with and communicate with. And if they can trick us, they can get hold of us and create trust, and it just snowballs and it's all downhill from there, really. But what is difficult for a lot of people is the whole idea of testing the spirits, testing the gods, testing the goddesses, testing these divine beings, these beings which have a position of power and authority. And the reason for that is because of how we're brought up, how we are trained, how we are programmed within our society. And that is one whereby you do not question authority. And especially in the Christian worldview, you do not question the authority, you do not question God, you do not test them, because it is a divine power. You cannot test it. It is, if you do so, you are being insubordinate and disrespectful and things like that. So we get programmed and we get used to the idea that we should not test authority and we should not question authority. If we do, we're bad people. But when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to witchcraft, paganism, demonolatry, ceremonial magic, whatever it is, magic related, on these pagan, very broad umbrella there, pagan paths, we have to test the spirits. And it's not only that we have to, it's also expected. It's expected from the spirits, from the gods and the goddesses, from the demons and the angels. It is expected that we test them. It shows our merit. It shows that we are not willing to just, kind of sit down and take it on faith. We have to test them in order to make sure that we are on good grounds, that we are talking to a spirit which is not going to harm us. Right. So let's go through the list. All right, so step 1. Ask the entity if they agree to be tested. All right, so with each of these, pretty simple. If they decline, you banish and leave. If they accept, you move on to the next step. All right. So when it comes to asking the entity if they agree to be tested, again, it's coming back to the whole idea of, we are brought up in the society where we are taught not to test authority or question authority. If we do, we are insubordinate. So this becomes very difficult for a lot of people to do, but do it anyway, because you want to remain healthy. You don't want to be taken out by astral parasites. You don't want them coming along and attaching to them and draining your energy. So we have to test. So first step obviously is to ask the spirit if they agree to be tested. If they don't, then they have something to hide. And quite often what you'll find is if you have a teacher or a person in a position of authority or power, a normal person in your everyday life who does not want to be questioned, and if you try to question them, they will tell you to shut up, you're not allowed to question them. It's probably because they don't actually know what they're talking about, or they have something to hide, and therefore you should not question them. Any good teacher or any good leader you should be able to question, and they will sit down with you and they will have it out. They will talk to you, they will communicate with you, they will relay their point of view, and all such things. So you really need to ask them first if they agree to be tested. If they do not, they are not the entity that you thought you were going to be speaking to, provided that you thought you were going to be speaking to a divine intelligence, a god or goddess, demon, angel, etc., etc., something of a higher power. Assuming that, then, if they agree to be tested, they probably aren't hiding something, and you can carry on. So then you go on to the next step. As I said, if they decline, if they say, I will not be tested, do not question me, banish them, get rid of them. They're not worth the effort. They're not worth the time. Then step 2, ask entity for their name and any affiliations they may have. Now, when it comes to an entity's name, this is really relating to when you first start working with a particular entity or spirit. If you have been working with them for a while, for a long time, they may not always, but they may give you a personal name. And the personal name is something that you alone use with them to identify them. So they may give you that name. Sometimes people refer to this as the true name, and a true name can have power over an entity. So there is that aspect, but in this regard, when you first meet a spirit and you need to test it in order to make sure it is the spirit that you want to work with, you ask what its name is and you ask for any affiliations. The affiliations may be that they are the daughter or son of such and such a god and goddess. They are affiliated with particular things, correspondences that relate to their own position. And again, if they decline to answer this, banish and leave. Otherwise, go on to step 3. Step 3 is ask entity to swear upon their identity that their responses to you will always be truthful. Now, do bear in mind that even if it's the spirit that you did not want to, or the spirit that you thought you were going to communicate originally to begin with, it may not be that spirit that you are talking to, and it may have gotten through these tests by tricking you. There are all these possibilities. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fit-all type of understanding or a perfect manual that gets you through all this. There are fuzzy lines and things get sticky here and there. So there is the possibility that the spirit could have tricked you anyway and has gone through all these tests. So you do also need to use your own discernment. You need to use your gut instinct. If things don't feel right, if things feel a bit icky, and you've got this thing in the back of your head that's saying there's something wrong here, then just banish and leave and try another day. So remember that. You've got to also go with gut feeling. This isn't just like a test and a right answer or a wrong answer. This is a test. Make sure that you feel all right with the answer that you're getting. Okay? So don't forget that gut feeling. The spirit you're communicating could still be an astral parasite that has reached a particular level where they know all the answers to these questions. And they may even swear on their identity, or the identity that they are given, that they will give you true responses. and they could trick you. So again, gut feeling, trust your gut instinct, and go with that. But what you'll find is usually, if you've gone through all of these 3 tests, then you are most likely speaking with the spirit that you intended to in the first place. So ask them to swear on their own identity that their responses to you will always be truthful. All right, and if they can swear on their own identity, because there's a lot of honor within the spirit world, within the magic world, actually, there is a lot of honor, and we as humans tend to forget that because there is such deception that we live with on a day-to-day basis in our world that we forget about honor. But there is honor within the spirit world, so usually you can be assured that if they swear on their own identity, that you are speaking with the spirit you intended to. Then again, if the spirit declines or something doesn't feel right, then banish and leave, otherwise go on to step 4. Now step 4 is introduce yourself in a formal manner. This isn't technically a test, but it is something which is good etiquette when you meet a spirit, and there's a little bit more to this step as well. So what you do is you introduce yourself in this formal manner. So this could be something like I am, give your full name, whose father is, give your father's full name, and whose mother is, give your mother's full name. Or it could be I am your full name, who was given life by your mother's full name. A lot of traditions do have a matriarchal line, so you quite often just focus on the mother's name. And you can make it even more formal. You can go through that, and then you can start listing. You can give them your magical name. You can give them your rank within your tradition and the tradition itself. It's very much sort of similar, going back to asking them to give their, what was it in step 2, ask entity for their name and any affiliations they may have. So you've asked them to do it, so what you're doing now is giving your own name and affiliations. That's of course, if you have a magical name and you have a position within a tradition and what that tradition is. If you don't have that, then you don't give that. You just tell them your name and who you were born or who gave birth to you. Then what you can do is, by this time, as I said, you can be assured that you're talking with the spirit. And again, use your gut instinct. If things are still not feeling right, banish and leave, try another day. But at this point, you should be quite assured that this is the spirit. And what you can then do is give them passwords, or a password and questions. For instance, don't give them too many questions. You don't want to make it like a year-end exam or something, but just 1 or 2 questions and give them the answers, so that when you meet them again, you ask them for the password, you ask them to answer the questions that they were given, and then you know this is the spirit you were talking to originally, and it's the right spirit. There's also, again, gut instinct. When you do meet a god or goddess or demon or angel, something of a divine intelligence or higher power, there's a gut feeling. You get used to the feeling that they give, as opposed to if it was an astral parasite. So the more you work with the spirits, the easier this discernment becomes, and the less testing you actually need to do. But you should test the spirits on all occasions, especially when it is a spirit you are first working with, when you are just introducing yourself to them. Alright, so banishing. How do we banish? This is usually just the normal banishing pentagram of earth. And what you do is you draw it in front of you, and in blue flame, often, you can really visualize it in whatever color or whatever thing you want to visualize it as, but quite often it's a blue flame. So you draw the banishing pentagram in blue flame, and then you just push it at them, and the pentagram goes through them, and they'll disappear. They'll just vanish into thin air. Alright. This is actually another way you can test the spirit itself. If the spirit is a divine intelligence and it is of a higher vibration and something that you want to be in your own space with you and communicate with you, if you do a banishing, you'll probably find that if it is that spirit, it will not disappear. But if it is a spirit or of a low vibration, it will definitely disappear. And if it is something that you do not want around in your space because it is harmful to you, it is going to disappear, it's going to go away. So the banishing pentagram, I'm not sure this is going to relate properly, so I'll give you the position instructions, but basically you start at the bottom left, go up to the top point, down to the bottom right, across to the top left, across horizontally across to the top right, and then back down to the bottom left. So if you were to imagine, if you're standing up and you put your hand on your left hip, then move your hand out so it's pointing forward. So if this was my hip, just trying to get it in camera here, put your hand on your left hip and then point forward. Okay, let me try that again. Point forward. Okay, so hand on left hip, point forward. Then what you're going to do is draw a line from there straight up to a point which is level with your head. Okay, pointing forward, and then draw down to your right hip, again pointing forward, then up to your left shoulder, pointing forward, across to your right shoulder, pointing forward, and then back down to your left hip. Okay, so that's the banishing pentagram, and you can do that with your fingers, you can do it with your hand, you can do it with your FMA, if you're in the spirit world or in the astral realm with the spirit, you know, venturing, journeying through. What you often do during these exercises is actually create your own magical tools within the astral realm. So you may have a sword, you may have an athame, you may have a wand, so you can use that if you want, or as I said, just your fingers. I usually use 2 fingers, so like that, or you can use your palm, your hand, whatever feels right for you. But yeah, you just draw the banishing pentagram of earth, you push it at the spirit and let it fly through the spirit and it will disappear, and then just leave, come back to your normal reality and have a cup of tea and a biscuit. Alright, so that is testing the spirit's step-by-step guide. Hope that helps, and this is probably the last one. I'll probably speak about it again at some stage. I do realize that some people come onto the channel and they haven't watched the older previous videos, so the questions get asked over and over again from, you know, that perspective. So I'll probably talk about it again, but what I can do in the future is just refer people to this particular video, because it is more defined and definite. Alright, so I will see you on Wednesday for Ask Lee. Have a good week until then, and cheers for now. Bye bye.